Hello, you're on the road less traveled with Gary L. and Gigi's Boo on RealLibertyMedia.com. Hello out there, Radio Land. Hello, archive listeners. Hello, chat room at RLM.com, RealLibertyMedia.com. If you're not there, then you're just not with it. You need to get with this chat room. It's only been 8 or however, 9 years. Gigi's Boo. Hi, Gigi's Boo. You are here.
Yeah, I'm here. How's everybody?
Yeah, how's everybody doing? Yeah, they've been around all this time, and it's pretty much the same people that started out. There have been a few new additions. I mean, it is not the chat room for the faint of heart. But the other side is, unless you are absolutely, completely, nuclearly off the hook, you will be allowed to stay here. That doesn't mean that everyone won't just tune you out. But Mr. Grimneer, who handles this chat room, is the moderator, is also the webmaster of RealLibertyMedia.com, will allow you to stay because he doesn't believe in censoring people unless, like I say, they're completely nuclearly off the hook. And that's a good thing. It's always a good thing because, someone may be 99% wacky, but that 1% might be the key to your understanding. Isn't that right, Gigi's Boo?
That's exactly right.
So what have you been up to? What's going on?
So we've had a exciting time around here with the dogs. And we have a mix. We have a lab boxer mix. And she's something else. Very, very territorial when it comes to our property and us. And we have video surveillance up 24 hours around the house, and kept hearing her bark and looked at the cameras and couldn't see. There was one blind spot. Just couldn't see. So went outside, and our Cocker Spaniel, the Black Hole, as Hal calls him, was just raising sand, and I stepped out and peeked around, and there was a groundhog on our chain link fence. And, of course, our mixed breed had treed it. It lived in our backyard, and it was up under a house. We have an old, kind of like a shed in the back, and he never messed with anybody. We called him Chucky. Well, it appears that Chucky and Allie came to a standstill. Not standstill, a standoff. And she just dared him to come down. And, of course, he was talking to her in his warning talk, just like a groundhog does, the cooing, clicking sound. And she was just barking, "Come on down. The price is going to be right when you get down here. Come on down." And I kept saying, "Come on, girl. You've got to come down. You got to let that groundhog alone. You've had your rabies shot, but I don't think you want to suffer a chewing up from a groundhog." And you got to remember, this dog is about 80 to 100 pounds. But I don't think at that particular time, the situation, she would have won. The groundhog had got down, she probably would have, but she would have jumped on her, and it'd have been a vet bill for sure. Finally, we coaxed her, got her into the side yard with the help of a neighbor who just literally almost had to pick this 100-pound dog up. And the Cocker Spaniel decides, well, I'm going to be the hero. I'm going over and I'm going to take care of everything. So he wants to go in the side yard with her, and they're both at the back fence, pulling on the gate, trying to get it open. And poor little Chucky, I watched him. Chucky jumped down and he ran for his life and got up under the building. Well, now we're keeping them isolated from the back. We're trying to get Chucky trapped so we can take him down the country and turn him loose. We don't want to kill him. Everybody was saying, shoot him. No, you don't want to shoot the groundhog. You don't want to do that. We don't kill wildlife. So right now they're kind of standing at the back fence, and they're really watching Chuck. And Atticus wants out, and so does Allie. Atticus tries to be the hero after the hard work's done. Allie did the hard work, but Atticus wanted to take credit for it. So it was a sight. I snapped pics. And we got some pics of it, so you'll get to see them at some point. Gary will put them where you can see them. But that was the excitement here for a little bit. Now things have calmed down. I think Gary's got something to tell you, too. So I'll turn it over to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have some pictures. Brenda took some action photos of the face-off, and I'll use one particularly interesting picture where they're actually nose to nose. I'll put that on as the photo on the YouTube archive. I like to put different photos on there, just make it a little more interesting. But that photo definitely, while it doesn't give you the sense of ferocity of the moment, it definitely, it's one of those catches that you don't see very often. It's one of those type of photo grabs you don't see very often. It's a very good one. Yeah, and I don't know, I'm not sure. I guess you were talking about last weekend, Gigi's Boo. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Last weekend, of course, I mentioned it the week before on the show, and if some people didn't get that, I apologize. But we had the big wedding. My son married Lauren, so Lauren and Nate are now officially part of the Long Clan. And it was a very nice event. Basically, a whole weekend in Maryland, and it was a fun event. And I mean, people were dressed to the nines, and it was outdoors, and the weather was beautiful, and there were a whole bunch of pictures. And fortunately, not many are incriminating. But there were some. Yeah, it was a very nice event, and that's the reason we were here last week. Anyway, that's all I got to say on that. But there was something, and we're going to treat this in a little more depth, probably in the future show. And it kind of goes off on the tangent of the things that I work with Suspect Sky. If you're not familiar with Suspect Sky's YouTube page, you might want to check it out. There are lots of unusual things there. I mean, to include unidentified flying objects, but also things about the nature of the deep state, and stories and videos about shadow people, things like that. It's a little bit of fun thing that we do. But you might want to check that out. But anyway, what we were talking about pre-show was a story that I came across. It's a YouTube video, and Gigi's Boo hasn't had a chance to watch the entire thing, but it deals with an area very near her hometown, and an event that occurred in 1966, where two police officers came face to face with an alien who they had watched land in a flying saucer off the side of a road. Now, that led us into some interesting conversation pre-show, because there are people, especially something close by like that, you tend to be familiar with the names of the people involved, and if any backstory, you might have some sense of that, and that gives it a little more credibility than just Joe Schmuckatelli in Canuckistan, reporting an alien in his trash can. But it's kind of a neat thing, and it's 1966, and as I told Gigi's Boo, it was 1968 when I actually had my close encounter of the third kind. Not something we've talked much about, but I think maybe it's time to talk about that, and then we'll do that once she gets a chance to study up on the story that came across. We'll maybe next week we'll go a little bit deeper into that. You want to touch on that just in an introductory manner, Gigi's Boo?
Sure. I was talking to Mother, and she said that she kind of remembers when that happened, and also a boy that she was in school with, maybe he was a little younger than her, had a similar encounter. He rounded a curve on Union Highway, is another small town below us, the next county below us. And when he rounded the corner, there was a UFOs sitting in the middle of the road. And they really thought this boy had lost it when he began to tell people. He immediately went somewhere and called the police and told them, and he said it was disc-shaped. It had legs. There were men standing outside of the craft. The craft had lights that circled around it, multicolored lights. And they turned around and looked at him. He came to a dead stop in the road, and they turned around and looked at him and just turned back around and started talking among themselves. He said that they were humanoid type. Well, he didn't. That name had not come out at the time, but they looked like humans. And one of them he described very, very well. He had dark hair, was in his mid-30s, and he became really frightened because they didn't seem alarmed that he was there. He was more alarmed, and he backed up and turned around and came back to town. Well, by the time he alerted his parents and some more people, they questioned him. And we had a teacher here at the time who watched the heavens all the time. And he talked to him, and he said, I believe you. He said, I really do believe you. So Duke University at that particular time had a paranormal department. Since then, they have done away with it. But they came down and talked to him, and they said he was not lying. They did a polygraph on him and another woman who had seen something similar, and they were not in the least lying. So things do happen. And I'm anxious to hear about this because I've heard of both these men that are on this YouTube. Mama walked back here and she heard it. She said, I know one of them. So that might be a thing that we could do. Maybe I could interview him if he would agree to do it. Might be tape. We'd have to get it, and let y'all hear it. But I do believe that it happened. I don't believe that anything is false about that. Just like my grandfather saw one, and I knew that there was something about the Broad River that I didn't like, the bridge down there. And then when my grandfather told me about what he saw an object that was cigar shaped, and it was bright, and it hovered to his left in the river, right over the river. And he said he never could explain it, and I asked him, wasn't he scared? And he said no. The funny thing about my grandfather, I don't think he was ever afraid of anything in his entire life, including death. When it came, it wasn't a struggle for him. And he talked about what he saw. He never saw anything moving in the object, but he did see the object. So there's some strange things going on. And Gary and I were talking about why don't we hear more about that now? I can tell you why. People can't get out of electronics. You don't have people that get out and ride anymore, people that don't get out and look at things anymore. You don't have a circumstance where a person is driving along and then all of a sudden sees something. How many people do you see now who are driving that don't have somebody in the car with them that's on a phone doing something? You're not looking. I'm sure it still goes on, but I just don't think people are paying any attention. What's your take on that, Gary?
Yeah, and along with the idea of the more controlled media, I know from the work, and I really didn't want to get into this week, but that's okay. I know from our work over at Suspect Sky that there are oodles of reports. There are tons of reports, and you just don't see them. You don't see. I am a MUFON member now. Having said that, am I comfortable that everything is? I hate to say this. Anyway, everything is as it appears. I'm not always sure about that. I mean, it's like with any organization. There's always going to be some degree of infiltration and oversight and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So you kind of got to, not the end all and be all kind of thing. But I do know there are lots and lots and lots of viewers of the YouTube page send in their videos. And there have been some striking videos from all over the world that you wouldn't have heard of otherwise. So I don't know. It's an open topic. Like I said, maybe it's something we'll get more into next week in my personal account. We can talk about that. And actually, there have been several, but there was one of particular note that we can talk about that happened in 1968, back in the days when we still had stone wheels and, that kind of stuff. Anyway, GD's Boo, wow. That pretty much for 17 minutes just flew right by. Why don't we touch on a couple of I have a list of things, and they're somewhat thematic throughout, except for this first story that is quite the mystery. Tyler Durden over at Zero Hedge. 18th September is a mystery in Switzerland because someone keeps flushing €500 banknotes down the toilet. Wow. And while there are several comments one can make, things like dirty money or flush with cash or flushing money down the toilet, blah, 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 perhaps the European Central Bank was on to something when it warned that 500 euro bin Laden bills, which it's since discontinued to print, tend to be used by criminals. Now, there's probably a lot more to this story that does not come out here. It caught my eye because it's come to the attention of Swiss prosecutors that someone anyway, attempted to flush tens of thousands of euros down a toilet at a Geneva branch of UBS Bank. The first of those bills were discovered several months ago in a bathroom close to a bank vault containing hundreds of safe deposit boxes. Then police were informed after they discovered what was clogging the toilet that had overflowed. Now, this kind of makes me think of one of those Bourne movies, where he has the secret accounts and inside the deposit boxes, their weapons and passports and all kinds of different money and all that stuff. It's kind of what it makes me think of, but we're talking about masses of 500 euro bills that apparently are kind of old. It says in all, police extracted tens of thousands of euros, many of which appear to have been cut with scissors.
So are they cut all the way in two?
No, they're not cut in two. It looks like they were cut from the sheet of bills.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, could it be that somebody maybe had robbed a bank or something?
I don't think
and
so.
Trying to get rid of it?
Don't think so. Because that would suggest that it was very soon after they came off the printing press that someone had entire sheets of them and cut them with scissors rather than the normal way that paper is cut and put into circulation. They say that the origins of the cash are unknown. And, of course, the bank declined to comment because it occurred next to their branch or at their branch in downtown Geneva. And according to the Associated Press, preliminary clues from an investigation suggest that the cash once belonged to an unnamed Spanish woman who had placed the loot in the Geneva bank vault several years ago. Wow. Talk about a story that provides more questions than it does answers. There's a whole lot to work with there. That would be an interesting addition to a work of fiction. You might could wrap a story around that if you're a writer. Yeah, any thoughts about that story, Gigi's Boo?
Really don't know. I mean, my first take on it is maybe counterfeiting or something like that. I don't know. That's odd to me. When you said it was being cut, I was just thinking, could that be where somebody robbed a bank, blah, 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 blah. But no, kind of sounds like maybe somebody's working in their treasury doing it now, or maybe it is counterfeiting. I don't know.
Well, I think they would have identified it if it had been counterfeiting. So it really makes you believe. It really lends the belief that, number one, somebody who was on the inside, as you said, through the treasury or however they print the bills there in the European Union, and someone had access to the full sheets prior to them being cut. And that brings up the concept of all kinds of backdoor, Gladio B, deep state, all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, that's a real neat story. It really would be worth following up. Yeah, and you're right. Grimnir toilet paper it's actually provides a value at that point. You use it for toilet paper, it has that value. So anyway, we'll move on to another story. Just thought that was a particularly interesting one. Well, we talked about the fact that Amazon took over Whole Foods. Okay. One of the stories that has, as the result of that thus far, came through the Organic Authority website, where Amazon has decided to disallow local brand involvement in any of the Whole Foods markets, where apparently in the past, local producers and whatnot would have the opportunity to make pitches at the local Whole Food stores. Amazon says no more. It says, instead of allowing brands to frequently pitch their products to individual stores or regions, Whole Foods executives in its Austin, Texas. Wow, why does Austin, Texas keep coming up about different things? But anyway, at this Austin, Texas headquarters will choose a higher percentage of the items stores carry. And that comes through the Wall Street Journal. It also said that brand representatives would be banned from the stores. Previously, they had been allowed to come observe how the stores were displaying their products and to interact with buyers to enhance sales and placement. Ooh, wow. Changes will also include new products, specifically Amazon Echoes and Echo Dots. A Brooklyn Whole Foods advertised the voice-controlled speaker system as the pick of the season. So I guess we all kind of see where this is going. You know, more centralization, more collectivization, more promotion of monitoring. I mean, Big Brother, wow. How fascinating. If you remember Gigi's Booth, the story we did last week about how Amazon was offering conversion kits for Glock pistols that would make them automatic, and it was a big sting operation by the ATF. Amazon doing that for, helping them out with that. So, he had warned people, don't buy that stuff because they'll come knocking on your door. Yeah. Gigi's Boo, any thoughts?
No, go ahead.
No thoughts.
I'm like you. No, I don't do nothing that nobody can track me doing.
And you remember, we'd been talking, a couple of weeks actually, we talked about this 5G thing, this 5G rollout, about how Lloyd's of London is not going to cover losses, deaths or loss or injuries as a result of non-ionizing radiation associated with the 5Gs. No, you guys missed that. Actuaries, you might not like insurance companies, but their actuaries know what's going on. They can pretty much tell you very accurately out of any cohort group that an X number of those people are going to die. And X number of those people are going to get ill from this reason or the other reason. They can't necessarily yet, I say yet, and we can kind of digress with that in just a minute, yet who it is, but they can tell you pretty much how many. And that's how they base their rates. And as you know, insurance companies aren't in business to make you rich. They are in business to make themselves rich. And so not paying out is one of the ways, or having the appropriate rates adjusted so they don't end up losing money is another way. So it's something to bear in mind. But Gigi's Boo, I think we're kind of talking, this is off the board, but we were kind of talking about these Ancestry.com places, and there's a new one, I can't remember the name, and I probably wouldn't name it if I could anyway, that you send off get your DNA tested and find out, how many, whatever you're related to, Botswana land, you have 10%, you're Botswanian. But we've had some talk about that, and about how, when you give up your DNA to a third party, and I think if you read whatever disclosures that they provide, you'll see that they are fully capable of reselling that information. Now, just ponder for a moment who might be interested in knowing what your DNA contains. Gigi's Boo, who do you think might be interested in that?
Number one, insurance companies. Number two, it'll go into the National DNA Data Bank, which they can do a lot with. But the insurance companies is what I'm thinking mostly. And also doctors, they get your DNA and see what you're really prone to have. And they can treat you, and just like those damn microchips they're putting in everybody. No, you got to be crazy to do that. No way they get my DNA. Mm-mm.
Yeah, absolutely. And one that you didn't mention are employers. What a cottage industry for someone to set up a DNA resource for employers to pay you on a subscription basis. So their applicants, they can pull their applicants' DNA and find out if they're going to be a liability in as far as their group health and life insurance policies are concerned. What about that, Gigi's Boo?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we were talking about the 5G business. and how Lloyd's of London does what they do. There are all kinds of these little operations in effect, and it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. It's like that thing about not seeing the forest for the trees. I mean, each one of these represent one of the trees, and you see the entire forest. It's not a pretty picture. And anyway, the nexusnewsfeed.com says that scientists and physicians send an appeal about the 5G rollout and health dangers to the European Union. More than 180 scientists and doctors sent an 11-page appeal for a moratorium on the rollout of the 5G in the European Union. The reason for the appeal is, quote, RF-EMF has been proven to be harmful for humans and the environment, but 5G has not been fully investigated for potential health hazards and environmental impact by independent scientists rather than industry scientists, who apparently would rubber stamp 5G similarly as the other generations of telecommunications updates have been done. Well. Oh, yeah. And there was something came up recently. I don't know how many people noticed this or not, but some stories have popped up about these mysterious metallic towers that are popping up around New York City and in the subway lines and all this stuff. And, I don't know, but I would suspect it'd be highly reasonable guess to say that somehow those are related to the 5G network, because 5G is effective only over short distances and doesn't transmit well through solid materials. So this suggests that in order to saturate most areas, you're going to have all kinds of antennas all over the place, which means you're going to be pretty much in constant physical contact with that EMF. And then again, hey, Lloyd's of London says, we're not covering it. It's an interesting story, interesting situation. We continue to move forward in this technocracy, and no one really has a care, it doesn't seem. Certainly stockholders don't have a care as to what happens as a result of it. And we talked about several weeks back. You guys want to look up so I'm trying to think the name of the website. Anyway, I'll dig it out. But anyway, all the predictions on the drastically reduced population levels, particularly in North America, or any of the so-called developed countries, you're seeing projections for massively reduced population. I'm not talking about just a few. And so all these things, there's that forest. We could do a whole story on the forest because all the trees are right out there for everyone to see. GD's Boo, any thoughts?
There's always going to be mass extinction of extermination of people, because people can't live on a cluttered planet, so to speak. So it's going to be that way. Just watch what I tell you. We see a lot of things, and that's one of them. Yeah, and it's gonna be kept on and on and on.
Yeah, and it goes on. The Georgia Guidestones speak to that. You look at this increased robotics, that speaks to it. The fact that, we actually have a story that gets into that shortly, about how fewer people will be required to provide the goods and services that maybe at one time required greater numbers of people. But, we'll see that these, as Henry Kissinger put it, useless eaters will no longer be required. And if you don't think that there's an agenda and a very specific plan to address that issue, then you are way behind the power curve. Okay, you're not paying attention. Maybe you're paying too much attention to taking a knee and the NFL and blah, and all this crazy stuff that's just designed to keep you looking the other way. But anyway, while we talk about the news, Google apparently is hiring 1,000 journalists to flood the newsrooms around America. And Tyler Durden, again, Zero Hedge. What do you do when you fail to elect your chosen candidate and your former political allies and mainstream media turn against you by painting you as not as the progressive, open-minded, friendly tech company that you used to be, but as an evil, racist, Russian, colluding corporate villain intent upon destroying all that is sacred in the world? Well, you just buy the media. As Pointer notes today, after a series of public relation debacles, or however you say that, in recent weeks, from the firing of James Damore to news last week that the Google algorithm served up some fairly disturbing keywords to potential advertising buyers. Google is ramping up its media presence with the announcement that the Google News Lab will be working with the Report for America to hire 1,000 journalists all across the country. And we're not going to go in any more deeply into that, as I think everyone sees that's merely an amplification of the news control. And we were talking a little while back, a little few minutes ago, about why you don't hear much about UFOs specifically, but other items of that nature. Well, the news is controlled. But, as Hillary Clinton most famously pointed out, that they're losing the information war in America. So how do you respond to that? You respond to it by more control. That's what controllers do. That's the only solution that they know. It's just like when you have a whole lot of weapons. I mean, everyone is the enemy at that point, and you have to always grab the big hammer to hammer the little nails. The bigger the hammer, the better. Who cares about the collateral damage? But it's all making sense, those who understand it. Any thoughts on the news, Gigi's Boo? Can't hear.
I'm taking care of something. Just a minute. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, we'll move along. And did I drop that in the chat? Yeah, I did. Okay. Now here we are. Technology again. Everybody's got to keep up with what you're doing, right? Where you are, what you're doing. Here's an article and a website that many people will find interesting. It's Google Maps has been tracking your every move, and there's a website to prove it, and we'll share both of these. It's emerged that Google has been tracking smartphone users everywhere they go, indicating it with a red dot on a map to mark and make their location much clearer for identification.
That's scary.
Yeah. I'll digress here a second, but in amateur radio world, there's a system called APERS that operates to a VHF radio, and that's something you know about. I mean, you do that intentionally, and using the APERS system, you can track, you can find out where people go. People can track you as long as your VHF radio is turned on in your car. And it also shows up on Google Maps. But this is much more robust, apparently. It says if you don't believe it, you remember what appeared in the scene of the Minority Report, where Tom Cruise is on the run from the law, but is unable to avoid detection because everywhere he goes, there are constant retina scans feeding his location back to a central database. That's exactly what we're talking about here. You can even track yourself to see whether what we're talking about is true or not. Just log in with the same account you use on your smartphone. You'll be able to see records of everywhere you have been from day one of that month. And so the link is there for you to check out for yourselves. Isn't this a fun world we live in?
Sure is.
I'll bet you I have this stuff in Arkansas too. And we're going to put the link to the... There's your map. Hey, there again, if you're not in the chat room, you're not getting all this. You'll have to wait till the blogcaster comes out. Whatever. Boo, Gigi's Boo. Here we go. Remember we were talking about automation and robots and not requiring so many people to provide, the same level of services. Gigi's Boo.
Yep.
Well, in Digital Trends, an article comes up that robot farmers have successfully planted and harvested barley all by themselves. Now, let's think a minute. How farming is being centralized and collectivized and monocultured and corporatized, and the little farmer can't hardly make it anymore, and I'm sure that's just an unfortunate economic accident. Yeah, right. But so now we see how automation, robot farmers, can now plant and harvest without too much human interface. Humans have been cultivating plants for some 10,000 years. And for much of that time, we've used beasts of burden to help tend the fields. Just last century, humans turned from animal strength to machine power, leading to huge leaps in agricultural efficiency and scale. Over the past few years, farms have deployed emerging technologies like drones and autonomous driving systems to make the farmer's job even less strenuous. See how they sell this as like, this is such a relief, it's such a great thing, right? But human hands were still needed throughout the process. But now, everyone's been rescued by the researchers at Harper Adams University and agricultural company Precision Decisions. And that would be one, as I drop this link, it is highlighted, so there is another link off of that, to find out exactly who Precision Decisions are and who funds them. Always a critical question when you look into things like this. But anyway, these folks have removed humans from the farm entirely in a project called Hands-Free Hectare. From planting to tending and harvesting, no humans stepped foot on the acre-and-a-half barley farm in rural England. It was all done by robot farmers. Ooh, Gigi's boo, you see where this is all going, don't you?
Oh, yes.
So like I said, all these are kind of thematic. As we move along here, they're trying to display the forest along with the trees. And right in line with this, of course, there are stories that we've all heard about, the retail apocalypse, all these store closings and whatnot. But this article from Anti-Media states that causing more than 3,500 stores to close as part of this retail apocalypse. But there are some things that we're not being told. In the latest blow to traditional retail sales this week, Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy. Stop right there. Why would that be? Now think about this. With a declining birth rate and a declining population numbers, why would Toys R Us file for bankruptcy? Gigi's boo.
It all has to do with the economy, I think.
What about fewer kids to buy toys for?
I see it. The economy.
And they're following the footsteps of an increasing number of other brick-and-mortar chains. But the giant toy outfitter is not the only company suffering losses. And they talk about the separate statistics show that more stores will open in 2017 than will close. That's interesting. The types of stores making gains suggests, now here we go, Gigi's boo, frugality is the norm. U.S. consumers amid a continuously harsh economy.
Well, it's like this. If you're not frugal, you don't eat.
That's right. Clark.com compiled a list of retail stores that announced closures of physical shops this summer. Sears said at the end of August that in fiscal year 2017, they will have closed approximately 180 stores previously announced for closure, and an additional 150 stores previously announced for closure are expected to be closed by the end of the third quarter of 2017. That was a gobbledygook quote, wasn't it? They'll also be closing 28 Kmart locations, citing a desire to change their business model. So the physical store footprint and their digital capabilities match the needs and preferences of our members. Wazoo! Talk about word salad. So what I got out of that was that people would rather sit at home and shop on Amazon. Hello, we were talking about that earlier, right? And Walmart online. If you haven't checked that out, you can go to walmart.com and you can order stuff that they will ship to your home, free shipping, quote, unquote, free shipping, and it's very competitive with the prices you get from Amazon. And these are items that are not carried in the Walmart stores. So you see, Walmart's straddling the fence here. They still maintain their brick and mortar presence. At the same time, they're establishing a digital presence along with it. So you can see the handwriting on the wall. Vitamin World filed for bankruptcy last week and plans to close 51 of 334 stores, which are located mostly in malls. So you can go to most of your neighborhood malls now and look, and they're big open parking lot with lots of these big buildings. The thing that's missing are the people. Have you noticed that, Judy Spoo?
Yes, and do you know you can order your groceries now on Walmart online, and you pay and you pick up and you tell them what time you'll be there, and they're outside waiting on you.
Yeah. Gap stores.
They're soon, excuse me, I won't interrupt you again, but they are soon going to be bringing them to your home. That's the new thing with Walmart. You shop, they bring them to your house.
Well, how about you contracted your local Uber driver to go pick them up for you?
Yeah, that's one way. Mm-hmm. We had a little fellow that came around here years ago, and he's going to be a real smart businessman. I think he already is. He fell in love with our Cocker Spaniel, and he kind of, I'm going to make this quick, Gary. I know you got other things, but he wanted to make some extra money. And so Gary and I talked, and we told him to contract himself out to pull the trash to the road for certain people, like elderly people. He did that, and he charged them, I think, $10 a month. And then he began to run errands for him. And he told them, I will not hold any of your money. I will not take your cards. I will not do that. But if you will call and tell them, pay for it, and tell them that I'll pick it up, I'll do it. He's got a booming business, doesn't he, Gary? He's really Johnny on the spot. He grocery shops. He goes and picks up the groceries, brings them in the house, helps them put up what they can't. He cuts their grass, and in the wintertime, if we have snow and ice, he shovels off their walkway, their porch, so they can get the mail. He picks up their prescriptions from the drugstore, and that little rascal has got a business that you wouldn't believe. And I'm proud of him, and I'm seeing a trend that more people are going to be doing this. People don't want to leave home. Why? Some could be like the elders, they can't. And then some people simply too lazy. You know, I just had to throw that in, Gary. I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you did, because you just segued into something else that Hal Anthony talked about behind the woodshed from 3 to 5 here every Sunday. If you missed it, you're there again. You're missing probably the best alternative radio, if you like that word alternative. Probably the best message that comes across any medium, alternative or otherwise. But he talks about the fact that governments are starting to replace their old, worn-out paper currencies with digital stuff, like Bitcoin and all that. Well, guess what? You talk about knowing us better than we know ourselves. That what you've just described, our friend who had actually bootstrapped himself in a very smart way, is operating on essentially a cash basis, right? Well, we can't have that as a taxing authority, can we? We must control all of these sorts of gap fillers, or niche fillers, if you will, and by controlling our knowledge of how much money they make, because it has to be made digitally. Yeah, there's no more of this cash under the table, is there? No. Imagine that. So you have a smaller population that's very feudalistic, as you notice, and you have this core of, as Brennan called, lazy people. But these are your gentry who can't be bothered to go out. So we'll have the Uber drivers bring our groceries. Do you see where this is going? It's very dystopian.
No, yeah.
It's very dystopian, but not in the ways that Hollywood likes to paint that picture. It's like nuts. Okay, Gap stores. They say they'll close 200 Gap and Banana Republic stores. Perfumania, never heard of it, filed for bankruptcy in August, moving to close 64 of its 226 stores. Starbucks announced it will close all of its 379 Teavana shops by next year. Gymboree plans to close roughly 350 stores following its bankruptcy in June. True Religion filed for bankruptcy in July and moved to close 27 stores. Ascena Retail Group, parent company of Ann Taylor, Lane Bryant, Justice, and other chains, announced in June it would shutter over 250 stores by 2019. And the beat goes on and on and on. Many blame Amazon and the popularity of online retail, especially amid the general collapse of America's once prominent shopping malls. And the new media has repeatedly sounded the alarm of the retail apocalypse. But in this report from the IHL Group, which happens to be a global retail and hospitality analysis and advisory firm, just for full disclosure, argues there is no retail apocalypse. Rather, they contend that customer preferences are simply shifting. In debunking the retail apocalypse, the analysts point out that more major retailers and restaurants are opening 4,080 more stores than they are closing this year. Nevertheless, many of the closing stores have been mainstays of American retail culture for decades, and those finding the most success are focused on budget pricing. So, I'm not going to read any more of this other than, there's one thing here that probably is important to cover. Prices on college tuition and textbooks have gone up 200% since 1996. Costs have increased for child care 125%, health care 120%, food and beverage 65%, and housing 60%. In contrast, products like cell phones, services, TV, toys, and software have become cheaper. I don't believe that, because cell phone service particularly is not cheaper. Cable TV is not cheaper. Right, Gigi's Boo?
Can you hear me, Gary?
I do now.
Okay, boy, cable TV is outrageous. We got rid of a lot of it, and more's going. I do not see that. And they're wondering why people are leaving. People are not going to give $170 just to watch some basic cable, what they call basic. Maybe the stupid video channels and all that stuff. Nobody wants to hear that. If I'm going to watch something, I want to watch something that is teaching me something. I'm not, no.
Yeah, so
it's terrible.
Yeah, you have to take a lot of this kind of with a grain of salt. But, use your own discernment. And I think you can see that generally speaking, yes, stores are closing. Yes, malls are drying up. Entire cities, Detroit stands as a great example, are drying up. I mean, come on, people. No number of other openings is going to repopulate the city of Detroit. Ain't gonna happen. So something much bigger is happening. And I understand, all of this stuff is spooky to Wall Street because you spook the stockholders, and the stockholders pull their money out into cash equivalents, and it's all just such a bunch of crap. But anyway, that's the system that you have to watch over. Okay, I think we're going to end up right there. And before I close with this last story, do you have anything you want to add, Gigi's Boo?
No, I'm fine. You're doing a great job.
Famous last words, right?
Yeah, famous last words. I got to tell you this.
Go ahead.
Gary called one day, and he used the Bill Clinton voice. And my niece, who was young at the time, she said, Brenna, I swear, that's President Clinton on the phone for you. I knew right off that it was Gary, because he does things like that. And she always picked at Gary, yeah, Gary said, coming to bust your tail. And she said, you got to catch me. And so she said, I swear that's President Clinton calling you. I thought that was real funny, his Clinton voice.
Well, you have to just don't quit the day job, right? I'd like to end up with a story here on a positive note. We sit here and break down and analyze I don't know what you want to call it, the deconstruction of world societies, of nation states, and which isn't necessarily all a bad thing in that regard. Unfortunately, that it's being conducted by psychopaths who have nothing other than their own self-aggrandizement and self-enrichment in mind as they go through this little game that they're very good at. and unfortunately most people aren't equipped to deal with. But anyway, let's just I don't know. Let's look for some unicorns and so forth. So here in the local news, this was it actually came out a couple of weeks ago and it's been sitting on the site, but right, waiting for the appropriate moment, I guess, and this might be it. A gentleman, actually an elderly couple, were traveling through West Virginia. They were going to attend a family funeral, unfortunately, in Pennsylvania. And I will just read this because it's pretty well written. It was a Friday afternoon, and they were heading north on US 19, a little ways beyond the New River Gorge Bridge. Suddenly, the road seemed to be extra rough, and the back of their 2007 Nissan Maxima started bumping and jerking. In his rearview mirror, Herb spied a loop of tire rubber as it rolled from his car across the traffic lane and into a roadside ditch. Their rear driver's side tire had blown out. So they pulled over on a gravel shoulder and Herb hobbled out of the driver's seat. Judy climbed out of her car, too. He opened the trunk and began pulling out the luggage so he could get to his spare tire. It must have been a sight, both of them on the roadside, next to a broken-down car, leaning on their canes. Herb remembered that I had only removed one suitcase and a wardrobe when I felt a hand gently pulling my arm away from the trunk, and a woman's voice said, "We'll take care of that for you." When I turned around, I saw that two cars had pulled up behind us. One was driven by Liddy Abbott. She's the one who spoke to Herb. The other driver was Liddy's friend, Sarah Bibb. Both live in Fayetteville, West Virginia, and they were heading to Morgantown with their teen, or perhaps it was a preteen, daughters, for some shopping. Both were in their 40s, Herb reckoned, and they looked pretty capable. These were pretty muscular women, he told me over breakfast Wednesday. Liddy said, "Why don't you and your wife go sit in the car and we'll take care of this," Herb said. There was something sincere and reassuring in their smile, and we did as she suggested. Liddy removed the spare tire and jack from the Nissan's trunk. Then a pickup truck pulled over too. Scott Robertson of Edmond, West Virginia, climbed out. He took over the tire changing operation from Liddy. Robertson loosened the wheels lugs, jacked up the car, and removed the denuded rim. But he couldn't get the spare on because the jack wouldn't raise the Nissan high enough off the ground. He solved that problem with his truck's jack. Soon the donut spare was in place. By this time, Judy had gathered Liddy's and Sarah's names and addresses, and Robertson's too. Liddy inquired where Herb and Judy were heading. Herb told her they were driving to Pennsylvania for his brother's funeral and planned to stop for lunch in Summersville. Hopefully, they could get a new tire there. She said, "Dearie, that little old donut won't take you from here to Summersville. The only tire place around here is Oak Hill, about 20 miles back," Herb recalled. So Liddy got their tire size, phoned a garage, and spoke to a guy named Adam, whom she knew. Turns out Adam had the right size tire in stock. Herb asked Liddy for directions to the garage. She began to write them down, but then she said, "Oh, hell, I'll take you there. Just follow me." He protested that he didn't want to interfere with their shopping plans. They were a long way from Morgantown, and Oak Hill was the opposite direction. But she replied, "Oh, hell, we have all afternoon." After Herb repacked his trunk, he offered Robertson $20. "It didn't seem like near enough to me. If I had to do all that stooping, lifting, and bending, my back would have been hurt for a month," Herb said. Robertson just brushed it off and said, "Nah, we all need help once in a while." And he walked back to his truck and drove away. Liddy and Sarah and their girls gave the Detweilers a two-car escort to Oak Hill. Soon they arrived at C. Adam Tony Tire Pros. The garage was jammed with customers, Herb recalled. It seemed like everybody and their brother was buying tires that day or getting them fixed. Everywhere I looked, people were sitting on chairs, benches, and a windowsill, Herb said. But never mind. Liddy walked up to the counter, got Adam's eye among the chaos, and told him This is the gentleman I called you about who's on his way to his brother's funeral. I know you'll take good care of them." Then Lydia and Sarah and the girls climbed to the cars and headed off to Morgantown. Adam got Herb and Judy off the road and on the road in less than an hour, Herb said. They were driving north when I remembered reading a story somewhere about a good Samaritan. But in this case, it was 3, and they weren't from Samaria. They were from West Virginia. And that's really all I got tonight, Gigi's Boo. What do you think?
I think it was a very good show. And, as always, we ask you to remember to always take the road less traveled. And I love you big to my heart. Have a good week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us this week, and we hope we see you again on future editions of The Road Less Traveled. And you have a great week, and be safe. Take care. Good night.